Welcome to Our Drummers Musicians, your backstage pass to Melbourne's vibrant music scene. Recorded on a cosy couch in Brunswick, join us as we explore what it truly means to be a musician and speak to the diverse talents that make music in our city. Today we're joined by Andrew Masutti, a talented audio engineer making a name for himself in Melbourne's music scene. Andrew works as a front-of-house mixing engineer, tour manager and production manager for Australian rock band British India, and is a house technician for several notable Melbourne venues, including the Corner Hotel, Northcote Social Club, the Curtin, 170 Russell, Northcote Theatre, and the Prince Band Room. Andrew's experience extends to stage, backline, and AV tech for local and touring shows. In the studio, he has experience as a producer, composer, engineer, and mixer. His work supports many local Melbourne artists and filmmakers as he continues to build his reputation in the industry. Andrew studied at the Victorian College of the Arts Secondary School as a percussionist before completing a Bachelor of Music degree at Monash Uni, majoring in composition. He then went on to complete an advanced diploma of sound production at RMIT. Join us as we explore Andrew's journey with music, his passion for audio engineering, and even discuss how he met singing at a choir at Monash Uni. We want to take a moment to acknowledge the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung people of the Kulin Nation as the traditional custodians of the land in which this podcast was recorded. We pay our respects to their elders, past and present. Hey mate, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me.
It's really nice to see you because I keep running into you at, when you're doing sound at a whole bunch of different venues.
Yeah.
But we haven't had a chance to properly sit down and catch up since we used to sing in choir back at uni.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking about that on the drive actually. Yeah. Good times.
Yeah, it was a fun experience and definitely not what I expected when I signed up for a jazz drumming degree.
Yeah.
How was the composition course?
Yeah, it was good. It was Thomas Rayner. I don't think he's there now, but he was the head of composition.
Mm-hmm.
There were two streams. I think there was a more jazz side, and then there was composition that, in general, that sort of covered a bit everything. It was great. Lots of theory, lots of philosophies. We did all the extra units like the choir and all that stuff. Learnt a lot, met a lot of great people, and yeah.
Do you feel like the compositional part of your music career sort of, was just a time and place then that sort of informs you with skills now, or do you get a chance to still, use a bunch of that stuff that you learnt in the current, worlds that you find yourself in?
I think composition was always there from day one till now.
Okay.
So I started classical piano as a kid.
Right.
That's where it's all kicked off musically.
Did you do the whole AMAB thing?
Yeah, did all that stuff. And, during practice I would go, oh yeah, that's all my stuff. Practice, have a little jam.
Oh yeah.
And do some sort of write out, play some stuff and do a bit of improv and that. So then I was sort of mucking around. My dad was a muso. Had a 4-track Tascam machine, Porter Studio. So got a lot of cassettes that have some old little keyboard, MIDI drum stuff happening.
Cool.
So sort of writing then. So it's sort of, started as a kid mucking around and got into high school and sort of played around writing a bit more of sort of music stuff. I don't know if until later on, I'm not sure if the earlier stuff was anything I would say was, great. But it was just all fun ideas and mucking around. So I didn't actually touch the drum kit till year 7, sort of high school stuff.
Right.
Which then gave me another approach of the composition ideas and.
Had you done any collaborations? Did you have any mates that were playing with this, or was this more of a solo activity for you at home, just with the gear?
It was just a bit of a solo thing, and then starting drums in year 7 or percussion. I went in as percussion. I was percussion drum kit. It was a bit of a blurry line. Didn't really think about the percussion side. I saw someone playing drums in assembly. I was like, oh, that guy's pretty cool. Yeah. I want to be cool. So I joined the drum percussion thing, and the first band I was in, besides the primary school sort of band stuff, was sort of like rocky kind of stuff, and we wrote a few songs together. So that's, I guess, when the collaboration side when it started. Well, my brother played guitar. We used to muck around and play some covers and like "Oh What a Night" and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, writing, that first band would be sort of when we started writing music and collaborating with other people. And then it sort of grew from there.
Yeah, cool. So what was the path like to get into VCASS? Was that something that you'd been thinking about, for a while once you started playing drums and doing the percussion thing? Or did it come a bit later?
I sort of always enjoyed making sort of stuff, but it never really developed into, I'm going to go to uni until sort of year 12. I actually was a bit confused of what I was going to do.
Okay.
I auditioned for, I think it was in Fairfield, was it NMIT? What was that one previously?
Yeah, North Melbourne Polytechnic or something.
Yeah, I think it was that one.
It used to be called NMIT.
Yeah, okay, yeah. As a like percussion drummer performer, and then I also tried out for a few other things, monash being composition one of them, and I didn't actually know 100% what I wanted to do. But then I was like, composing for film or something would be awesome. Or just putting your music out there. And so like audio engineering wasn't really in my head at that time.
Okay.
So then I got into monash. I was like, this is awesome. Give it a go. And then I guess decided, I got in as a performer as well for MIT, but I sort of went, maybe I more want to try composition. So then I went in that direction. Studied that, and then sound production sort of started coming to mind during that course, I guess.
Yeah, right.
Just wanting to be able to record myself well, not knowing the whole live scene, how many things go on, like lighting techs, all these different techs. And I guess composition's still there now because I still love writing music, my own stuff, band stuff, producing, helping others sort of add elements to their music or that side of things. Still would be nice to maybe do some composition for film or other people. Yep. But I guess I'm not putting that energy into it at the moment.
Yeah, sure.
As audio engineering is pretty, that's a lot of my time is that, or collaborating with the band I'm in, we're writing music together. I guess finding a balance is hard, isn't it? Deciding what am I going to put my energy into. So I guess going back to your question, compositions was there at the start, still there now. I guess it's to always be there.
Yeah, it seems like, I guess, at least now, the like live mixing audio engineer work you do is probably like the predominant work. And like
that, I would say that's 100% of the work. I did I had a studio for a few years, which is no longer there, so I never really went full on with that. Sort of just did friends of friends, bit of recording, mixing, producing stuff, but live was always the main thing for me.
Yeah, sure.
Still is, doing freelancing, different jobs.
What is it about the live audio engineer work rather than the studio stuff that you most like?
I guess I enjoy and like both, but I think that's what really took off, and that's what work started really coming in. So that's where I sort of just committed to that.
Sure.
I think after doing it for this amount of time, I sort of really enjoy the pressure in a way.
Okay.
And like mixing in the studio, you can spend hours on one sound. In live, it's like, you hear it, you're like, I got to do this, and then you keep moving forward. Quite like that, and it's actually, I guess, changed my approach in studio or mixing a song at home or doing any of that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
It's like the excitement and also time pressureness of live that gives it sort of, I don't know, much more like focus, because it's like, oh, quick, I got to solve this problem, because there's just always stuff, to do, I guess. Yeah,
and I think at the end of it, if it's a gig or a show, the show happens and you're like, oh, that went well, and then you sort of go into the next one, and you're always working towards getting this show up and everyone having a good time, and and I think just all that work that started coming in, that's where I lent to, and I think I would really love to do more studio stuff too, but that's just how it sort of ended up at the moment. And
yeah, sure. Because you've been doing like live work for what would it be, like 7-8 years now?
Yeah, it's about 2018.
Okay, yeah. So what's it, like 6 years, 6-7 years? And you've been with British India for what, 4 or 5 now?
So I've started mixing them sort of this year, the end of last year, but I've been working with them since pretty much the start. When I was starting to take on audio work. Ah, okay. And I met him in Frankston, filling in for the house tech.
Yeah.
I just did a weekend there, and they played, and sort of from then on started getting a bit of work with them, and it was a bit of stage work, sort of assisting front of house that they had, setting up the desk and doing those kind of things. Then it slowly over the years did a little bit more, sort of more TM work, and ended up now mixing them and sort of on the road with them.
Yeah, good. You're doing great.
Yeah, it's been fun. Yeah.
What's it like being part of the band, like in those roles, rather than like part of it or attached to a venue, where you're just mixing everyone who comes through?
Yeah. It is interesting, I guess. You're sort of working with the band, and you're there for the band, and there's a lot of traveling around together, and it becomes you sort of you get close, and you sort of all mates, and there you go to the venues, and I guess it's interesting knowing what the house tech is like, but then someone else is doing it. It's refreshing in a way, because sometimes house techs can do a fair bit of there's a lot of patching, getting everyone happy, and as working with the band comes in, you're working with the house tech, and it's a different experience, but
Would you mind explaining a little bit about like the different roles? For some of our listeners, like most people don't really know very much about what's going on in the background. Maybe if you could like just briefly describe what it is that like the house tech does versus like the front of house work that you do with British India versus maybe like, I don't know, the monitor stuff as well.
So generally every venue would have a house tech work on a show, and the house tech pretty much gets in there just before the band arrives and switches everything on and starts getting things set up. So they work out patching, where things are going to plug into, get mic stands. They pretty much get everything going. Lighting tech might come in that does lights, might need to help them out, set a few things up. Sometimes house tech might operate lights if the band brings their own audio engineer, because in some situations it's only one audio console front of house where you might do monitors from. So there's no separate monitor console, so the house tech is free to do lights or do something else. But then in some venues there's a monitor console, so the house tech might do monitors, and then the band will bring their own front of house engineer. So it's kind of the house tech's there to get the show going, knows the venue, sets it all, sets it all up, works with the touring team, like crew. Band might bring a front of house, a lighting, guitar tech. Just get everyone set up, work with them to get everything going, ready for sound check. Venues like the Corner, there is a monitor console, so house techs do monitors for the band. I'm not sure if that explained it too well for
it
you,
does.
but
So the way that I sort of see it happen, say when, let's use the British India example of yours. Yep. Do you come in to mix the front of house, at sound check, and you just come in like basically when the band arrives, and get you mixed for the session and run it live, and the house tech basically does everything else, like kind of like a tag team thing of like, thanks for setting up the desk, now I'll get the mix that the band wants?
Generally, if there's an external engineer coming in, they would, with digital consoles, you can bring USB and load up your own file.
Of course.
House techs, like there are house files and people can build from a house file, but generally, you've got something that works with your band and how you like to is flow, your workflow. So you bring that with you. And in some situations, you might use what the venue has,
but you can basically put your USB into the desk.
Yeah.
And it pulls up like
all your
everything.
Preset stuff, your EQ, your compression settings, your effects, your routing, and just how you like to work, because every engineer is different. So you might say, same band, different engineer, another engineer might work off, say someone gives me a file to work off, and I load it up. It might be just completely not what I do, and I wouldn't be able to use it, because it's just like, it's I guess what
what do you mean by that? Is it like all the channels are in like a different order, or like the way that
just
they
like
things?
Processing might be different, like the way they process channels might be different, or the routing, and there might be things going to places that you wouldn't normally do it, and then it might get real confusing. So it can be real like what's the word I'm trying to think of? Like just you might look at it and go, what that, like it might make complete sense to someone else, but totally different to someone else. And it's real interesting to see that. So that bringing your file around and doing that, I guess, speeds up the process, and everyone's got their own way they like to do things.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it comes down to speed in the end and the result that you want to get and how you get there.
Sure.
Yeah.
How much like tweaking do you have to do from desk to desk? Like, does it matter if they're different brands at like different venues and stuff?
They all have sort of limitations, or in price range, I guess, and brands. Sound, I guess, that's subjective, whether they sound different. But mainly would be, how they're laid out physically and, in the software.
Mm-hmm.
So layout and the signal flow would be a big one. The physical layout of the console. But limitation would be the main huge difference, going from like a $5,000 console to like a few $100,000 console.
Yep.
So you would have to, if you're limited to a certain amount of auxiliaries or groups, which is like a path you send a channel to get to another place, then you have to go, okay, what do I want to use it on? What do I, how do I want to set this up? Effects, you might be limited to, like there's a Midas console that's in a lot of venues in Melbourne. You sort of only have 4 time-based effects that you can have in there, and then there's another 4 you can add in for EQ, compression and stuff, but that's it. Like that's all you have. So you got to decide what you're going to use it on. So just you got to know the console, work out how you're going to set it up, and Yeah, and you can't like load up something from one desk to a completely different desk. You have to have something completely different.
Right.
Like as in have something, either build it up on your computer, which you can do it on your computer and then load it up.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you can't really load up from one to the other.
Yeah, okay.
It's the same brand, different, some brands you can do that, some you can't.
Yep. Wow. Yeah, so I learnt a little bit about like front of house mixing from my dad, but it was all taught on analog desks. So
and even then you're limited even more.
Yeah.
Digital, you've got so many
it's
many options, but
yeah.
you might only have like a couple gates or a couple compressors. You're like, what do I want to compress? Vocals, my drums, but I've got all these vocals. What do I do here?
Yeah.
And so I was actually lucky because as I started, it was quite a strong digital. Digital was becoming. It was probably already really established, but there was still quite a few analog consoles when I was starting out.
Mm-hmm.
So my first job was at Lucky 13 Garage in Moorabbin.
Okay.
So quite a few cover bands play there.
Yeah, right.
That was all analog when I started. And it's actually really good. I got really good because you had to physically patch things.
Yes.
It's not just all on a screen. And it was just really good to get the just that strong base of, where things are going, and in a way kind of got my speed up, and
Okay.
it just sort of really got me to a good start, like a good point to then, sort of get the other work.
Mm.
And the Curtain was actually analog till a couple of years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I guess it helps like when practically when you're like patching leads in to a compressor and then around to something else, like you're not just like changing the workflow on the little monitor.
Yeah.
You're like, you've practically done it all, you understand what it all means in a different way. Yeah. Well, what's getting you most excited, I guess, about life in the mixing world at the moment?
The main thing that excites me is just you're always meeting someone new every time you work, like every day, and that's always exciting. Just who am I going to meet today? And even audio engineers, it's always learning something new every single time. The way they might mic something up, or just do something completely like you've never thought about. Learning all that stuff, that's all exciting for me. But I guess sort of work wise, touring, having a taste of the touring, I think that's something I'd really love to, keep on taking, and see where that goes.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it's nice hearing that you really enjoy, meeting new people and doing that. Like, I feel like everybody's had like a full range of experiences as a musician working with like different audio engineers.
Yeah.
And some that like are very friendly and lovely, and others that like want
the opposite.
Like nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
Or it seems to be like, oh boy, this is hard work.
Yeah.
Have you found that it's really easy for you to set like a positive tone with bands coming in when you're running the show?
I guess it's a big thing. Having obviously, you want to not start off on the wrong foot. So, but I just find being yourself and giving everyone the opportunity, or like giving everyone, just everyone's just coming in, and you're not going, oh, this is just like sort of prejudging or anything. Just everyone's there to do a show, and you say hello to everyone and work on it from there. And I find just being yourself, and just if you're calm, everyone else is calm. So I found you kind of, from day one to now, you really gain a lot of skills in how to work with people, and if you're starting to get tight with time, how to move things forward but keep it all under control. And I guess being yourself and just be calm and just, have it all nice and fresh when people come in. That's probably a good thing, because when people come in and you start the show, that really sets the tone. So I guess if you're sort of, where have you been, if they're running late, and then it's all sort of not so good tone for the rest of the gig.
Yes.
Yeah. One engineer told me, have some background music on when they come in, just have it, right. So it's not sort of all empty and,
Yep.
So I do that generally try to do that sometimes, and little things like that are nice.
Have you found the community of audio engineers has been quite supportive of like sharing tricks and stuff like that? Like when you notice someone setting up a mic in a different way, are you allowed to be like, that was cool, can you tell me why?
Yeah. Everyone's always really excited to share things with other people, and it's just it's you barely ever get someone that's doesn't want to. I think everyone's pretty open to it, and I find external engineers coming in really I think they enjoy when they're sort of sharing, because I guess not all house techs would probably sort of ask, why are you doing this, why are you doing that? So I think it's kind of lost where I was going with that, but
well, I think you were saying that because you're actually like interested in what they're doing, they're happy to share it with you, because other people might just sit there and not say anything. Yeah,
I guess so, but I think everyone's just excited to share things with each other, and even musos, like if I hear a good snare, I generally ask them, well, what's that snare?
Yeah.
Or like they might have something set up in an interesting way. I'm like, what's that all about? And they sort of tell me about it, and it might just be some real wacky thought. They're like, I just tried it and it works,
Yeah.
But yeah, I early on I was like, I was not afraid, but I'd sometimes think, I won't ask, because maybe they'll be a bit funny about it. And then as the years got on, I started getting a bit more open about it all, and learned that everyone's really happy to have a chat and talk about stuff that's happening.
Cool.
Yeah.
Are there any like most recent mic tricks or tips that you've been obsessing over recently?
A few years ago, I was working house as a house tech, and an external engineer was there. They mic'd up the bottom of the snare with a condenser mic, this little Audio-Technica one. And I never really thought about doing it in a live instance, and since then, I'm not all the time, it doesn't always work, but it's great. I love it, and that's one I've really loved doing.
Cool.
Well, the other week, I haven't actually tried it. Someone was telling me about they had guitar amp mic'd at the front, and then a second mic inside the guitar amp at the back, just sort of facing in on an angle.
Yeah.
And it's got all this low end body, but they said it doesn't work all majority of the time, but in this instance it really worked.
Cool.
They didn't do it for that gig, but they'll just tell me about it. Things like that, it's just like, that's awesome, and one day I'll try it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to ask about the underside condenser snare mic technique.
Yeah.
Is that opposed to like using a dynamic mic, or just from not miking the underside at all?
Opposed to dynamic mic,
okay.
Yeah. Completely different sound that you get out of it in the end. Very crisp, and pairing that with a nice fat top mic is really nice.
Just because it's so different sounding.
Yeah, just getting those wires,
the
texture of the wires, which you can do greatly with a dynamic, but just hearing it, I was like, whoa, that's really great. So depending, I guess, it probably wouldn't matter for certain styles, but some styles would actually work really nicely.
Yeah. I guess part of that is like the studio versus live stuff too, right? Like
studio, because obviously
all the time.
Spill is a big thing in a live setting. Studio, I guess, as well, but in a live setting, you're trying to get as much of the source as possible. So drum being so loud, it works okay. But if you had a stage full of condensers, you'd be in, pretty big strife. But But even like underheads, that I never thought about that until I can't remember when it was. Someone did it. I was like, oh wow, that's great. More of a direct cymbal if you got a loud stage and a lot of mics. So I do that, time to time.
Are you talking about like the under the ride or crash cymbal microphone?
Yeah. So you might have a couple mics under the cymbals instead of over the top, facing right into the cymbal, and you just get that direct cymbal sound. Because if you have it over the top, it's like can be useless in a way because you've got so much drums coming through those overheads.
Right.
So it works well on like a ride. You even get some engineers will do overheads and a ride separately.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the preference for underneath is because you get more stick sound? Is that sort of
just more direct cymbal sound.
Okay.
So crashes are pretty loud. So if you're not getting much ride and it's a loud stage, you might do a underhead that's a bit closer.
Yeah. Okay.
It's just so you can have that more direct, just louder signal to noise ratio or background noise. You just got more of that cymbal you can bring in.
Yeah. Cool.
Sometimes, you may not be able to get that in the mix if you just got these overheads, or it just all depends on the stage as well. And
sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's slightly nerve-wracking, having you come in because you're like an actual sound engineer, and then I'm just here running, a couple mics into.
That's just great setup. I love it.
Oh well, thank you.
I haven't talked about the SSL before. Beautiful.
Have you ever used a real SSL?
Just at uni when I was at RMIT.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Did they have one for training? Or
they had a Neve room, which was the main one.
Yep.
SSL room, which is near where they do the radio show.
Oh. Yep.
And there was another sort of editing sort of room that was just an Avid sort of controller.
Oh yeah.
But the SSL and the Neve room were too. I'm not sure SSL's still there. I think it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was nice to use.
Yeah, I bet.
Even the Neve was great. Yeah. Some nice sort of stay in there recording. Part of the projects you got to record bands and.
Yep.
Yeah. It was great fun. Yeah, it was good.
Where do you find that all of the things that you're thinking about and workflow sit for you now? Like, did you learn a process at uni of like, okay, I'm going to patch things in this order, and we always mix this first, and I run it through like, EQ, then compressor, then like whatever, or I don't know. Is it all just like you've absorbed it all over the years, and now you're just doing stuff naturally because it's just what comes?
I think a bit of both. You get the bones at the uni, but then things that might work really well oppose that too.
Oh yeah.
So kind of like there's just this never-ending, constantly learning stuff. But I think always learning and absorbing, and then you just decide what works for you. That's what I've found. That's really, really good way that I've sort of been working over the years.
Is this like they tell you something, you've always got to do it like this because this is how it works in theory, and then you're in a band room and you're like, boy, like, I don't have time for that, or
someone might just say, oh, I've done it like this before, and then you try it, you're like, oh, that's really good, but it's like you shouldn't really do it that way. I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but it's just funny how that works. Like that amp, mic in the amp and inside, like in a live setting, like that. In theory, like that would go crazy. Like, how would you be able to use that? And then he said it worked really well. But yeah, I think absorbing everything, and if someone's there and they're telling you something and you think, oh gee, that's wrong, and you just go, but taking it on board and go, okay, try it out, or and then that's nonsense. You're like, oh, I'm not, won't take that. But then someone says something you really like, oh yeah, and you take that on board. But I'm constantly changing the way I work, consoles, building files, and that. It's always changing. Like I opened up, I was doing some files for the British India. They're on tour at the moment, and I opened up a few from like 2-3 years ago. I was like, what the hell was I doing here? This is silly. So you're like constantly changing, like every time what you're doing, the way you do something, or Do you still see yourself as a musician when you're doing the audio engineering role? I think about like the musical side of stuff all the time when I'm working. Do you mean more like, am I a musician part of the band, or do you mean
however you want to think about it? Yeah, because like I go, if I think about you, I'm like, yeah, you're a musician.
Yeah.
You do all these different things. You had all this different training. But yeah, I'd like to know what you think about it. Like, especially like if we narrow it down to just when you're doing audio engineering work.
Yeah.
Do you think of that as still being the role of a musician, or do you think of it as, you know, it's adjacent, it's supporting, and it's involved in the music making, but maybe you draw a line because it's different to when you're, you know, we're doing all of your like serious compositional training or you know, all the percussion stuff?
I think sort of both. Yeah, like you could have two separate engineers mix the same band, and the band sounds, in the end, the band's the band, so not completely different, but just like, oh, well, that was really different. So they're there to support, but they also bring just this, you know, their sound to the band, or the way they might mix the band might make the band sound a certain way. So they've got a lot of, I don't know if power is the right word to use, but a lot of what they can do will really shape the band. So I think in a way that sort of is a bit of both, because they're there to support technically and, you know, get the band to a level and sound great, but then there is a lot of this creative side of mixing. I guess in the studio there's a lot of, so much you can do, and in a live setting there is too, but yeah, you can really take things in different directions when you're mixing a band. Yeah, you
got so much control. Like, you know, if I'm playing a show, or if anyone's playing a show, and then like just even their monitor mix is like slightly off, it like can throw the whole thing out of whack.
Totally, yeah.
Or you go to a gig and you listen to the band and you're like, oh, I can't hear, you know, the second guitarist or whatever.
Yeah,
it's like it's so much power, even though like the band might have you know, been practicing this thing in their sound.
Well, that makes me think. I always think it's funny, like in this arena, say for if you're in arena mixing and there's, you know, however many thousand people, like if just on this desk, and there might just one fader that's controlling the lead vocal, and like if you muted that, the whole stadium would not hear the vocal. It's like all this power in this little, you're just this one person there on this desk. It's like, it's just mind blowing. But yeah, you're right. So I guess monitor mixing's quite really important, because the band's got to be comfy, and a lot of people might ask me, oh, do you prefer front of house or monitors? They're kind of both, you know, they make you feel that they both give you an outcome in the end, and I feel happy with both, because I'm like, oh wow, mixing front of house, this is great. This mix is feeling really good. Everyone seems to be enjoying themselves. But then like mixing monitors for a band, when the band's really happy, it's like just as fulfilling, and it's hard to say what I like one more than the other. So I guess that kind of goes back to that music audio engineering question in a way.
Well, here's another question for you.
Yeah.
How do you know if you're doing the mix as the front of house guy that the band wants? Because the band can never hear your mix.
It is funny, isn't it? Right? Yeah. I guess depending if the band's got music out or not, you'd probably listen to the band and know what they want. Or I always have a chat with the band if I'm a house tech and I maybe haven't heard of the band.
Yep.
You know, how do you like your vocals to sit? What kind of stuff do you like on the vocal? You know, slap delay, or like a long delay, or verby stuff, sort of more atmospheric, or you know, because some bands like their vocal at the front, some are like, oh, sort of push it in there with the band, with the guitars and stuff. But in the end, they unless you're recording it, they probably wouldn't know. So it is interesting, isn't it? A lot of the time, they'd probably go off what their friends might say or something.
Yep.
Or they might jump out during sound check, you know, have a listen to how it's sounding, and but generally, just make them sound as good as you can, and if you understand where they're going with their music a little bit, then generally it's kind of the right direction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned like listening to the band's music.
Yep.
Just to, go like, oh, okay, now I get what they're going for, because that's, what they did on their last single or the album or whatever.
Yeah.
I'd never thought about something like that being done.
Yeah.
Makes sense though.
Even just the quick chat sort of helps, how they want their vocal, because they might say, oh, just real subtle effect, like just keep it all simple.
Mm-hmm.
Or someone might say, go for it, and give you that creative ticket.
Yeah.
Sort of go for it, which is always fun. But I think being, having played music and that, I find that if I hadn't, my whole approach would probably be completely different as well.
Mm-hmm.
Feeling the music and sort of, it's an interesting thing coming from a music side as well. So that kind of, I guess it helps understand what I need to do as well.
I think it would definitely help with the musical aspects side of the things, rather than just having the theoretical approach or the you've done so much work at learning all the practical things of how to patch stuff or how to route it, what all the different things mean and what they do, and how to position it all practically. But the next level of taking it to, we're making music, we're not just making sure all of my faders are balanced at 0 and the gains are set right or whatever. It's more than just
exactly
doing it technically correct or whatever. You're part of the experience.
And I think audio engineers, you don't have to have no music or play music. There's so many great audio engineers that maybe don't play music on that. So I think it's just more how I find it works with me.
Yep.
Even jumping on lights sometimes, if I'm at a venue where they might bring their own audio engineer, which is very common.
Mm-hmm.
Might jump on lights or something and just sort of feeling it. It's there's a build up, and then all of a sudden you can bring up these lights, and it's oh yeah,
cool,
I got that right. If you don't, obviously it might look a bit funny, but but so having the music side of that, it's that's cool. I can really sort of flow with the music,
play some finger drums with the lights along with the band and stuff.
and all that stuff. Well, it's actually interesting lights. You can really make really bring it down, make it moody, and a lot of power there too. Just I find that the small rooms just give everybody intense red or intense blue. And I've started taking some photos at concerts over the last 12 months or something like that, and it's something I'd never thought about before. And now that I'm taking band photos, I'm I wish the lighting guy would give me something more to work with here than just dim red. I heard red's not the greatest for photos and stuff.
It's just the intensity of solid color. Sometimes it's good, but
if there's no haze as well, that's a real the depth in the photos.
But do you enjoy the lighting stuff too then when you get the chance?
It's a bit of fun. I don't mind it.
Would you dive into doing thinking about it a bit more, or it's not as interesting?
No, it's definitely interesting, but I think there's so many things I still want to do with audio and music. I think I'd still want to drive that way, but if someone needs lights, I'll jump on.
Yeah, cool. Well, so tell me a bit about what's happening with your band.
Wilma Sights. I went to school with the guitarist, vocalist. It's funny, we never really hung out. We were never really that close until I moved to VCASS.
Okay.
And then I filled in drums a few times for his band, and then a few years later we sort of started playing some covers on guitar, and then we're let's get a band going, and we liked the same music and sort of gave that a shot. Then musically, stylistically, we changed. We sort of went separate, different directions. Had a few years downtime, but then we sort of were what are we doing? Let's get back into it.
Okay.
And we just sort of clicked from then, and came across a really great bass player, Darcy, which is bass player. So we're a 3-piece. We met him on musicianswanted.com, I think it was.
Oh.
You know that old website? Yeah. So like, hey, we need a bass player.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So we that's how we found him. And
Wow.
so we're sort of trying to kick it off. It's obviously tough, but we just love making music. Sort of just stylistically, we go so many different places, and that's sort of where we're at. Working on new music at the moment. Hopefully, get that stuff out. And
is it good to have the like creative outlet again for you, like musically?
Yeah, I think just playing is always, it's hard to describe sometimes. It just gives you that outlet. Even like just jamming or rehearsing, like you're just in a room together and you're all there,
Yep.
It's great to have. And I think working on new music, we really just explore it, and a lot of muck around with keyboard and synths and stuff like that, and just sending each other ideas, or I send them, what do you think of this? And they're like, oh yeah. And doing all that's just really great fun. Find, and the collaboration side's always great. Always good fun. Yeah.
Yeah, because I guess you don't, we've spoken a bit about like, the opportunities to ask other audio engineers and stuff about what's happening, but most of the time in your roles, it's just you, doing, like, especially when you're working in-house at a lot of the venues that you do, you'd mostly be on your own. Yeah.
Like
you're working with the bands and stuff. But
there's, majority of it's on your own, I guess. So like, you sort of, there's a whole sort of techs on house techs, but you never really work together.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Yeah.
Unless like 170 or something, they've got quite a few techs on at once.
Yep.
But yeah, a lot of the time you're on your own and working with the band, or if they bring someone in.
It's great that you're able to do that. Have brought the band back together to do some more stuff, because then you can go, oh great, like I've got this collaboration experience, and I'm making music, and we can share ideas, and like all of that, the fun and exciting stuff of bands. Yeah. But then also be able to do all the audio engineer work as well. Yeah. You're not just like sort of stuck doing one or the other or whatever.
Yeah. It is tough though to find a balance sometimes. I might have you sort of book in advance with this kind of work, and the guys might go, oh hey, got this gig opportunity. I'm like, oh, damn, I got to sort of change work or something, and which is great, but it's just it's tough trying to coordinate the lifestyle, like the two together.
Yeah, of course, because you're mixing gigs at band venues and then also want to
play gigs. It's like it's just it's tricky, but just trying to make it work, and rehearsing is sometimes tough too. Mm-hmm.
Just have drums set up somewhere?
Used to be
okay.
The old house.
Yep.
But now we just we go to the rehearsal room, and we luckily recorded drums, bass and guitar for pretty much all the new stuff. So that luckily did all that, so we can sort of work on the music.
But you'd already recorded that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, at the previous place.
Yeah, nice.
So that was lucky. But so the drums, it's not set up, unfortunately. But it's funny because the bass player's in Oakley, I'm in Altona North, and the other guy's in Essendon, so we're sort of all spread out.
Oh yeah, okay.
So coordinating that as well, it's like, we get there.
Yep. Yeah. Got to come into like Brunswick for rehearsals or something.
Just find a central point. Yeah.
All right, well, we've been playing this game on the podcasts where I get each guest to ask a question of the next guest.
Okay.
And because no one knows who the next guest is, it's this kind of like fun adventure of
that's cool.
The questions. Anyway, so I got 2 questions for you from bass player Yuri Pavlinov, who was our last podcast guest.
So you're going to play it back?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
So I'm going to keep it in that breakfast theme and just say, like, what is your preferred method of egg?
Depends on what I'm feeling, but as a straight out answer, I'd say poached.
Interesting.
Poached egg. Soft, I like it to...
Yep.
You cut into it and it just gives you that extra layer of sauce. Yeah.
Nice. I think you and Yuri would get on.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh, all right, so, and now Yuri's serious question.
Yep.
And serious question...
well, that was serious.
would be like, where do you see live music in this country in 5 years' time?
Oh, that's a big question. I guess it can go so many ways, but obviously it's not looking great at the moment. I think it's really changing the lifestyle, as well as people going out and going to gigs is changing quite a bit as well. In 5 years, yeah. Hopefully venues the smaller venues in particularly getting hit hard, but everyone is. Hopefully stick around, but I think, yeah, it just might not have as many gigs on during the week. Like, you know, you can Monday, Tuesday, you could go see a gig, but I find that's tough. Yeah, unless people really start going out and, yeah, I'm not sure how many venues will still be around or festivals. You know, it's all on the fence, I think, at the moment. And the culture of, you know, going out to gigs and sort of buying drinks, which venues, I would say it helps them a lot, and the culture of that's really changed.
Yes.
So obviously that's good that maybe people aren't drinking as much, but yeah, I think venues are trying to find a way to still put the shows on, but not have to rely on things like that. Pre-sale tickets aren't what they used to be, so I think that's hard for people to actually put on shows, because they're like, oh, is this actually going to do well, or are we going to completely lose money on this, or you know what I mean? So yeah, I think creatively there's still be lots of music and lots of people making music, but I think the live scene, yeah, might just not be as many smaller shows happening possibly in 5 years.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring up the, like, you know, the business model of like drinking at like the smaller band venues and stuff, and that's what's like bringing in the main income for the business.
Yeah.
You know, Yuri, I sort of put the question back on him a little bit, and he was talking about how, like, you know, the insurance premiums for these
that's
small
another
business
thing,
have just like completely
skyrocketed.
Gone from like 10 to 70 grand or something.
And there's no reason why I should have. Like, I don't think anything's changed, you know, and it's not like people are behaving, you know, bad at the venue. If anything, everyone's really well behaved at shows, I find.
Yeah.
I think that's really seeing people.
Yeah. But I think it's so true too, what you've said about, the culture is changing of like people coming out to shows and people not buying tickets pre-sale as much. And
which is hard, you know, for bands to go, okay, let's get a photographer for the show, let's film it, or, you know, let's go get extra lights for the show and put in all this, and for them to feel like they can. It's obviously tough.
Because they've got to take a risk before they have it, and cost of living is hitting everyone. So
basically. And obviously travel is, like, touring side of it is obviously pretty crazy, and it's a lot for bands at the moment, and in 5 years whether that's going to change, I'm not sure, but just so many hurdles for bands and venues and to sort of work through at the moment. But the insurance is a big one that you mentioned. Even for musos, like, so many, for the last few months, there's been a lot of people saying, hey, keep an eye out for this, it's been stolen, or, you know, besides the public liability, it's all these other insurances that musicians might need as well. And, you know, if they can't afford to have it, something gets sort of taken, then it's like, oh, you know, we're losing all these, people are losing their gear that they rely on to make the work, and you know, they can't afford the insurance, for example, or I'm not sure where it'll go, but hopefully I think it's just hopefully people just got to keep supporting it, and hopefully we find another way to keep the gigs happening. Yeah,
absolutely. I'd hate to lose all of the small venues and stuff. We just have such a great scene in Melbourne from that, and it would be so sad if it's gone.
I think so. And
Well, mate, what would you like to ask the next guest?
Yeah. Good question. Suppose you can cut out this thinking time a little
Yeah.
bit. Yeah. One question could be, do you put your tomatoes in the fridge or leave them out of the fridge?
Ah.
Okay. That's one.
Okay.
Because I heard it's positive on both, but
What do you do?
I leave them out. Yeah, I don't put them in the fridge anymore.
Ah.
Yeah. Avocados I used to leave out, and now I put them in the fridge. It's just like a constant change because you're getting all these different. Everyone's tiny different things, but yeah. I guess another question would be, what would you tell yourself 10 years ago to knowing what you've done now, things you've done now, what would you maybe tell yourself to, it doesn't have to change anything, but yeah, what would you tell yourself 10 years ago, music related or, anything really, learn this instrument or, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Nice. I like it. Thank you.
Oh, no worries.
Well, I'll finish with 5 short answer questions.
Cool.
What is... and I'm going to just ask them as I ask them.
Okay.
But adjust it to you as needed.
Okay.
What is your favourite venue to play in Melbourne? So like you
haven't
could
played
say,
it as
you could say
many,
mix
though.
or play.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
pick what you want.
Okay. Play would probably be the ones I've played in. Say the Curtain was actually fun. We played there one of those midweek shows. That was actually quite fun. Actually, Mama Chan's is quite a great venue in Footscray.
Oh, I don't know Mama
Yeah,
Chan's.
it's very cool. Really cool little room. It's I think 100 capacity.
Oh,
But yeah, it's great to play in. Really
Cool.
nice little, just nice sort of vibe as well. Mix in. There's so many great venues to mix in. Northcote Social is really fun to mix in. Like really dead room, and you can really do what you want in there. It's really fun. Probably that'd be my answer for mixing.
what about your dream venue to play at? / audio engineer at?
I'd love to play at the Forum. I reckon that'd be great fun.
Mm-hmm.
Or the Corner. But probably Forum. Mix at. Actually, I haven't mixed at the Forum. That'd probably be a good one to do. Or do an arena show. That'd be obviously quite a crazy time.
Yeah.
Just be standing there and yeah. Yeah.
What is your coffee order?
Oh, I usually have like double espresso. At home, I do a percolator coffee, usually morning and sort of after lunch. But occasionally, I feel like a bit of milk in there. Might get a strong latte.
What is your favourite place to get food after a gig in Melbourne?
Ooh. Actually found a new one. Opposite Stay Gold, there's a kebab place. Actually very, very nice.
Just on Sydney Road, right?
Yeah. Just sort of ordered it with just lemon juice on there.
Mm.
And it was like nice and clean and it's
Cool.
great.
Directly opposite, because there's a couple kebab shops along there.
Essentially, yeah, pretty much directly opposite. It's
Nice.
like pretty narrow.
Yep.
I can't remember the name, but
No, I can't either off the top of my head, but
yeah.
I know most people know
Yeah.
where that is. If you don't, corner of Union and Sydney Road,
Yep.
pretty much.
And if you're in Northcote, Lambs is quite good
Mm.
next to the Social Club.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that's quite good.
Someone told me the other day that there's a Lambs there. I just always think of Lygon Street Lambs.
Yeah,
as
there's
the
one
only
Northcote,
place.
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
Northcote. There's a really good ramen place, but I can't remember the name. A little bit further down.
Okay.
Yeah, if you like ramen.
All right, and finally, kind of similar to the question that you've asked our next guest.
Yeah.
What is one piece of advice that you would give to your younger self?
Spend more time doing stuff and less time like technology these days. Yeah, just do more things. Like even musically, I got so many unfinished songs. I'm like, just work on that stuff. Just do things and make the time. Yeah.
Well, mate, thank you so much for making the time for the podcast.
That's so good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's been so nice to catch up with you and hear all about what you're doing. And you anytime I've heard you mix, mate, it sounds awesome.
Oh, thanks.
And it's really exciting just seeing you get booked more and more and bigger venues. And yeah, it's despite our like concerns about live music in Australia, I'm excited to see where your career as an audio engineer keeps going.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, look forward to hearing the music from your band too when you put that out.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Excited to see you at another gig. And it's funny, it's crazy how small the Melbourne community, like the live scene is.
Yeah.
At the start I was like, whoa. And now it's like, oh, everyone, this person knows this person plays with this person. And
yeah, it's wild how like I feel like there's like these intense silos of like scenes and cliques and styles and stuff in each room.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, there's like so much crossover.
Oh, yeah.
And even if you don't know the person directly, you know their friend or their bandmate or whatever. And it's just like, oh, it's actually, really small and spread out at the same time.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, mate, if anyone wants to check out, the music of your band or they want to book you because, we've got like a band or production team that's tuned into the podcast for, joining them on a tour or, mixing them.
Yeah.
What's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
I guess Instagram could be a good one.
Sure.
Andrew Masutti or Tutti Frutti Masutti. And otherwise, can shoot me an email, andrew.masutti@outlook.com.
Cool.
But always keen to work with, anyone on anything. I love so many styles of music, so just always open and,
Well, thank you. I'll put links up to your Instagram. Tutti Frutti.
Yeah, that's the one.
on the podcast website, so people just click straight through.
Cool.
And thanks so much for doing this. It's been fun.
Thanks again for having me and the tea and everything. It's been great.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on Our Drummers Musicians. I hope you enjoyed diving into the world of another musician as much as I did. Help us grow by leaving a review and sharing the podcast with your friends, family, favorite artist, or anyone else who might enjoy it. For more info and updates, visit ourdrummersmusicians.com. See you next time.